What's up my peeps, it is now time for the Raw results / highlights and review video. I'll give the results, some of the highlights in my opinion, and give you guys my thoughts and my review on the show. So it kicks off actually with the Authority coming out, or the former Authority, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. And they go ahead, they pretty much, to sum it up, They talk about how it's going to go out of business, that WWE will be no more because they're no longer there, and without them, there is no John Cena, there is no Dolph Ziggler, there's no Ryback, there's no WWE, and that, you know, once they're gone, everybody's going to beg for them back. And just as they're about to leave, Daniel Bryan's music hits, and he comes out, and everybody's chanting yes. It was a nice surprise, and he gets in the ring, he starts chanting yes right in front of Triple H and Stephanie. They get out of the ring, and Triple H is now on the apron, and Daniel Bryan gets right in his face, starts chanting yes some more. Triple H then gets off the apron, starts walking towards the stage and towards the back. Daniel Bryan goes ahead and runs right up in front of Triple H and Stephanie once again, and starts chanting yes again. And then he does it right in front of Stephanie too, and then he goes back inside the ring. Then they go ahead to commercial. Once they come back, Daniel Bryan's still in the ring, but this time he's got a microphone, and he says it's good to be back in the ring, and he says that tonight he's in charge of Raw, and he brings out the Authority, not the Authority, but Team Authority. So Seth Rollin, Kane, Rusev, Mark Henry, and Luke Harper. And he says, you know, he's a fair guy, so he's not, you know, going to, like, put them in unfair situations or whatever. And he goes ahead and pretty much gives them all like something to do for tonight. He starts off with Seth Rollins. He says that since Seth Rollins, you know, is used to being in handicap matches, you know, 2-on-3 and all that, that he's going to put him tonight in a handicap match against John Cena and Dolph Ziggler. And then Seth Rollins is like, what? You know, who are you going to give me as a tag team partner? You're going to give me El Torito and Hornswoggle or something like that. And then he says no, and he says the WWE Universe are the ones that are going to decide who your tag team partners are going to be. He says option A is Mark Henry and Luke Harper, option B is Mark Henry and Kane, or option C, it's Seth Rollins, and then he tells Seth Rollins, hey, could you like step aside? And then Rollins steps aside, because behind Seth Rollins was Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble. And then he says, option C is Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble. And then Seth Rollins goes ahead and says, what? But they're not even real security. And then he's like, you know, they're not, they're only security. And then he just gets pissed off and leaves. And then after that, he addresses Kane. He says, you know, in his opinion, Kane shouldn't be the director of operations. He says, but he's not going to make that decision. He's going to let the WWE Universe decide. So he asks them, you know, do you think Kane should be the director of operations? Of course, they say no. And so he says, but don't worry, I'm not going to get you out of a job. You're still going to have a job. Except instead of being corporate Kane, you're going to be concessions Kane. Instead of being the director of operations, you're going to be the director of food and beverage. So he goes ahead and brings someone out to give Kane like a tray of hot dogs and popcorn so that he can go ahead and sell those. And so Kane goes on his way, and then he addresses Rusev. He says, okay, Rusev, you're the U.S. champion. You've got two options tonight. Option A, you defend that U.S. title in a company-wide battle royal against every single superstar on the roster. Or option B, you come out to the ring with a U.S.A. flag hanging above the ring so that he can recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And then Rusev and Lana, they're pissed off, and it looks like Henry's laughing. He's turning his head so we can't really see, but I'm thinking he was laughing. But anyways, Rusev leaves, and then when it comes to Luke Harper, he just keeps it simple and he makes him defend the IC title against Dean Ambrose. The crowd cheers for that. Luke Harper leaves. And then it's down to Mark Henry. Mark Henry's about to leave, and he tells him, hey, Henry, you know, wait just a second there. He says that tonight somebody told him that they wanted a match with Mark Henry. They wanted to avenge a loss to Mark Henry from WrestleMania, and that person is the Ryback. I don't know why, but Daniel Bryan always calls him the Ryback instead of Ryback. So he then tells Henry, and that match is next. So Henry starts walking down the ring, and he's like, you know, how about me and you instead? And then Ryback's music hits, and he comes running down the ramp, and he starts fighting with Mark Henry right away before the bell rings on the outside. And then he pushes Mark Henry headfirst into the steel post, and then he smashes Henry's head against the barricade a couple times. Then they go to commercial. Once they come back from commercial, the match starts. The match lasts maybe a minute or so. Ryback hits a spine buster on Mark Henry. He then follows that up with the meat hook clothesline, covers him, and gets the 3 count. I was hoping for a shell shock though for the win. But I guess if you look back at the WrestleMania match, then maybe, you know, it makes sense for Ryback not to want to make the same mistake that he did in that WrestleMania match where he tried to go for the shell shock and Henry fell on him, and because of that, he lost the match. But still would have liked to see a shell shock. So anyways, after that, backstage, we see Stephanie and Triple H, and they go up to Vince, and Vince is waiting in front of a limousine, and they're about to go in the limousine, and Stephanie apologizes. She says she's sorry for letting him down. He says he's not angry, he's not an angry person, but he says he's disappointed, and he put them up against these, you know, insurmountable odds because, you know, in corporate, sometimes you do have to, you know, overcome insurmountable odds. And in the end, he says that, because Stephanie says she's sorry again, and he tells her not to say that, and that he's sorry that he's got to spend Thanksgiving with them. They then go inside the limo, and the limo blows up. Just kidding about that part. But they do actually get inside the limo and leave, but it doesn't blow up. So, after that, it's the Intercontinental Championship match, Luke Harper versus Dean Ambrose. The match actually ends in a DQ when Ambrose goes for dirty deeds, but Luke Harper pushes him off onto a referee, and then the referee disqualifies Ambrose. So, for a second night in a row, Dean Ambrose gets DQ'd. After the match, Luke Harper tries to go for a suicide dive on Dean Ambrose, but Dean Ambrose stops him by just punching him. And then he brings a steel chair inside the ring. He hits dirty deeds on Luke Harper onto the chair, and then the crowd starts chanting, "We want tables." So he goes ahead, goes to the outside. He actually grabs a ladder first, and then he grabs a table and puts it in the ring. But before he could get back in the ring, he gets clotheslined from the back from Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt then quickly hits Sister Abigail on Ambrose without even kissing Ambrose's forehead. And then he takes the announcer's table top off, and then he throws Ambrose over the announcer's table, and he throws a bunch of chairs on top of Ambrose like Ambrose did to Bray Wyatt. And then Bray Wyatt poses, his music hits, and that's it for that. After that, we get Big E's New Day promo video, and then we get the return of Santino Marella with the special guest host for Raw tonight, which is Larry the Cable Guy. He comes out without a shirt and with shorts on, with camouflage shorts. He's there, and he's got a mask on, and he wants to wrestle. And then Santino tells him he's not here to wrestle. And, yeah, not really anything important. Goldust and Stardust come out, and Goldust slaps Larry the Cable Guy's ass, and then he heads to the ring with Stardust, because they've got a tag team title rematch against The Miz and Damien Mizdow. And Damien Mizdow comes out with toy championship belts. You know, the ones you get off of, like, Target or Walmart or whatever. And The Miz, of course, has the 2 real belts on his shoulders, and Damien Mizdow has the 2 toy ones. And the funny part is when The Miz went ahead and, you know, gave the championships to the referee so the match could, you know, could officially start. Damien Mizdow also gave the toy belts to the referee, but the referee just put them aside. But anyways, the match ends when The Miz was on the outside, and he was like acting like he was hurt, you know, pretending to be hurt. And the medics were checking on him. And then, meanwhile, Damien Mizdow, he was doing work in the ring. He was locking in the figure 4 on Stardust. Stardust was about to tap out until Goldust came in and tried to interfere. But then Damien Mizdow also took care of Goldust. And then Stardust sent Mizdow to the corner. That's when Miz got up. He got on the apron really quick and tagged himself in. Stardust did not see that. Stardust hits the disaster kick on Mizdow. And then Miz comes up from behind, hits the skull-crushing finale, covers him, and Miz and Mizdow retain their tag team titles. After the match, you know, they celebrate just like they did at Survivor Series, where the Miz raises his hands up, crowd boos, Mizdow does the same, but the crowd cheers. Afterwards, we get Kane in front of the concession stand, And this chick comes up to him. She tells him she's his manager and that she heard he likes to burn things. So because of that, he's not going to be allowed next to the grill or, to operate the grill. So instead, he's going to be in charge of the chips. Afterwards, we get Rusev and Lana. It's time for them to pick whether they're going to defend the U.S. title against everybody or if they're going to pledge allegiance. Anyways, so they go ahead and pretty much, or Rusev goes ahead and says that he's not going to be brainwashed and he's not going to pick. So he's about to leave, and then Bryan appears on a Titantron and he says, he had a feeling something like this would happen. So he's sending somebody out there right now to make them pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and it ends up being Sergeant Slaughter. He comes out. And it's pretty much Lana doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Rusev doesn't do it. And Sergeant Slaughter pretty much does it, or, gives Lana the instructions, and she repeats after him. But then before she could complete it, Rusev takes the microphone off of Lana and pretty much tells her, no, don't do it. And then he tells her to get out of the ring. And then he corners Sergeant Slaughter, and then Jack Swagger's music hits. He comes running down the ring. Rusev gets the early advantage against Swagger, and then he charges him. And whenever Rusev does that, or whatever, and then charges the ropes, something like that, or charges you, most of the time, he's going to get either a boot to the face, or he's going to get slammed, or something like that. And he did get slammed. Swagger hits him with like a power slam. And then he puts on the Patriot Lock, but Rusev manages to get out of there and roll out the ring. And then Zeb Coulter, Jack Swagger, and Sergeant Slaughter do We the People in the middle of the ring. And that's it for that segment. And then we see Santino and Larry the Cable Guy. They're at the concession stand that Kane is working. And they ask for a hot dog, or Larry the Cable Guy wants a hot dog. But he's scared of Kane, so he tells Santino to order for him. So Santino does it, and he says, extra mustard. And Kane goes ahead, grabs the hot dog, and then he grabs the mustard, but he doesn't put it on the hot dog. Instead, he puts it on Santino's head, and then he gives the hot dog to Larry the Cable Guy, and he says he's a big fan. And then Larry the Cable Guy laughs, and then he takes some of the mustard off of Santino's shirt onto his hot dog, and he takes a bite out of the hot dog and leaves. And after that, we get Fandango versus Justin Gabriel in a rematch from last night at Survivor Series. And just like at Survivor Series, Fandango wins once again with the leg drop. And they're calling him the new and improved Fandango, even when they're announcing him when he's making his way down the ring. After that, we see Big Show walking backstage. And then once they come back from commercial, he comes out to the ring. And he's all smiles and giving a thumbs up, nothing happened last night. And so he talks about the match last night. And he said, he didn't want to do what he did, but, he didn't want to lose his job. And from his point of view, last night, once Eric Rowan got eliminated, and John Cena and Dolph Ziggler were his two partners left, he says Dolph Ziggler was out, and John Cena, he was slowly getting back up, and he had three fresh, hungry opponents standing right in front of him. So, he thought they'd lose. So that's why he did what he did. He also says if he could, then he'd go back and wouldn't do it. And then he says, he asks the crowd, I guess, for forgiveness. But the crowd boos him, and then he starts getting pissed off, and he says, come on, after all these years, of me putting my body on the line for 20 years, I'd hope you guys can at least give me a mulligan. But like I said, the crowd boos, and so he gets pissed off, and he starts, taking shots at the crowd, and then he starts talking about people in the back, whispering about him, about what he did last night, and he calls them cowards, and he says if any one of them wants to come out here right now and confront him and say, what he has to say face to face, then come out. And then Eric Rowan comes out, and Big Show calls him the upside down Sheamus. Now, I don't know what that means, but for some reason I thought it was funny. Anyways, so Rowan gets in the ring. Big Show pretty much tells him to get out of the ring before he gets hurt, and then Eric Rowan takes off his mask, and then he takes the microphone off of Big Show, and he tells him he doesn't like bullies, and then he punches Big Show, and he goes on the attack, and then he hits the spinning heel kick on the Big Show. And Big Show gets out of the ring, and he teases getting back in the ring like all the heels do, but he actually never does. And then Rowan's music hits, and that's it. Afterwards, we get Seth Rollins backstage with Jamie Noble, Joe Mercury, and they're like happy about, I guess the possibility of them being in a tag team with Seth Rollins. They say it's gonna be like the Shield 2.0. And then Seth Rollins says, I mean, no offense, but you don't really, stack up to my other potential partners. And then Dolph Ziggler comes up to them, and he says, hey, while Seth Rollins might not believe in you, I do, and for that reason, I told my 1.4 million Twitter followers to vote for you guys. After that, we get Brie Bella versus AJ Lee, and Nikki Bella is at ringside. And, man, AJ was good on the microphone. Well, she's always good on the microphone. Anyway, she comes out, and on the microphone, she says, let's be honest. She doesn't say, let's be honest. She says, let's be, because of what happened, of course, last night at Survivor Series with Brie kissing AJ. So, yeah, she says, let's be honest. After what you did last night, you proved that you're an even bigger skank than your sister. And then they go ahead and have the match. At some point in the match, Nikki tries to get involved on the outside, but AJ takes her out, and then Brie, or once AJ turns around, Brie hits her with a clothesline, and throughout the match, Brie was acting like a heel. She was wrestling like a heel. So anyways, after a slight distraction from Nikki Bella a few moments afterwards, Brie rolls up AJ and actually gets the 3 count. So Brie Bella beats AJ, and then Brie gets out of the ring, Nikki goes up and hugs her, and then AJ grabs the microphone and says that both of them combined aren't half the woman she is. And then she says it's time for somebody to, break the news to the Bellas that, talent is not sexually transmitted. Following that, we get another matchup with Adam Rose and the Bunny. It's Rose and the Bunny versus Tyson Kidd and Natalya. And Tyson Kidd and Natalya win the matchup after pinning Adam Rose. After the match, Adam Rose is pissed off, and the Bunny's like trying to cheer him up, and Larry the Cable Guy was on commentary along with Santino. After that, Renee Young interviews Ryback, and she congratulates him on his win against Mark Henry. He says he's not concerned with that right now, and he says Thanksgiving's coming up, and he's hungry, and then he asks Renee if she knows of any good concession stands nearby, and then he laughs and leaves. And then we get another New Day promo, except this time it's with Big E, Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston all together, and it announces that they're gonna make their debut next week, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyways, afterwards, Ryback goes ahead and finds Kane's concession stand, and he says he's hungry and he wants 2 cans of tuna, a protein shake, and some beef jerky. Kane says he doesn't have any of that. All he has left is hot dogs, and he grabs like this hot dog and he throws it in Ryback's face. So Ryback shoves the concession stand table right into Kane, and then he pours like some ketchup onto Kane, and Kane sprays some mustard onto Ryback. And then Kane just runs away, and Ryback goes ahead and grabs like a bag of salted peanuts, and then he says, hey Kane, you forgot your nuts, stupid, and then he throws the bag of peanuts, and that's it for that. And then Renee Young interviews John Cena and Dolph Ziggler. John Cena praises Ziggler and says that Team Cena was Dolph Ziggler last night, and then Dolph says that they needed a miracle last night, and that miracle ended up being Sting. And then John Cena ends the promo by saying that tonight, they're facing off against Seth Rollins and his tag team partners. So they're facing off against the man who runs this place and the show off. So the show is about to be stole, and then they leave. So then they come out for the matchup, and then Daniel Bryan also comes out, and he introduces Seth Rollins first. And then he shows the poll results. Mark Henry and Kane got 3% of the votes. Mark Henry and Luke Harper got 4%, and J&J Security, Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury, got 93%. So JJ Security win by, large amount. They come out, and they're all excited. Seth Rollins, not so much. And then Jamie Noble starts the match, and he still has his tie on, so Seth Rollins tells him to take the tie off, and he does. And then John Cena even lets him, lock in a headlock. And then all of a sudden, Joey Mercury gets in the ring, and him and Jamie Noble start, leapfrogging over each other for some reason, and then they bump into each other accidentally and hit each other with like a double shoulder tackle. And then they get out of the ring, regroup. Towards the end of the match, though, Rollins just gives up and gets out of there, while John Cena hits an attitude adjustment on Joey Mercury, and Dolph Ziggler hits a zigzag on Jamie Noble. They cover them both at the same time, and they get the win. And then after that, Rollins, he's like on the ramp. He doesn't want to get in the ring. So Daniel Bryan comes up from behind Rollins, grabs him, and throws him into the ring, where John Cena hits him with an AA. And then afterwards, we hear the email sound, the email notification, the very familiar sound we heard a couple years back for pretty much every Raw for a while. And that is the sound of the anonymous Raw general manager, the laptop. And Michael Cole saying, "Can I please have your attention?" And then he goes ahead, opens up the laptop, and the crowd is booing at the anonymous Raw GM. And so he opens up the laptop, and it says that next week is going to be Cyber Monday, and that order will be restored in the WWE. And that's pretty much it. And then there's a bunch of other email notifications, but Cole just smiles, and that's it for Raw. So the anonymous Raw general manager is back, or at least back for 1 week. I'm not sure if they're gonna do like a, like they used to do, where there's like a new GM, or a GM for every single week. Like this week it was Daniel Bryan. And maybe next week it's the anonymous Raw general manager, or is the anonymous Raw general manager the permanent general manager, or the general manager for a while? I don't know. But anyways, as far as highlights for tonight's show, I'd say Damon Mizdow, once again. I'm telling you guys, I thought it was funny when Miz goes ahead and, hands over the championships, the tag team titles, the real tag team titles, to the referee so he can hold them up. And Mizdow goes ahead and gives the referee the freaking toy belts, and the referee grabs him and then just puts them on the floor shortly after. That was funny. Mizdow is great, man. He's one of the highlights of the show. And also now, another highlight, I guess, is that the New Day stable is debuting on Monday next week. I know a bunch of people are like, oh, it's so... it's gonna be crap, it's so stereotypical, blah blah blah. Look, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just glad that they're getting something to do, or they're gonna do something with Kofi, Big E, and all that. And I'm interested in seeing where it goes. Are they gonna be faces or heels? I'm thinking they're gonna be faces. At least that's what I'm getting by, I guess, watching the promo videos. And Kofi Kingston especially. Out of these three superstars, Kofi Kingston has been the one that's been the same, or that's had the same, I guess, persona or character, I guess, for the longest time. It's always been the same Kofi Kingston that wins the Intercontinental Championship every, 4 months, or every once in a while he goes ahead, wins the IC Championship, or United States Championship. So I'm looking forward to it. Next week, that's what I'm looking forward to. And also another highlight for me was AJ on the mic. She really went in on the Bellas, and I like that let's be honest part that she did in the beginning. And speaking of the Bellas, what's going on with Brie and Nikki? Because Brie's acting all heelish in their matchup and all that. And Nikki's helping out Brie, she hugs Brie. I don't know what's going on. There was no explanation as to what happened last night, or why Brie was all smiles when Nikki won the championship, and that was something I actually was interested in, finding out today, but like I said, there was no explanation from Brie or anything. Maybe we'll get an explanation on Main Event, SmackDown, or something like that, because I think her days as Nikki Bella's personal assistant either end today or tomorrow. So, who knows? Maybe we'll get an explanation on SmackDown. If not, that's kind of weird, because all of a sudden Brie Bella's okay with Nikki, and she's back to being a heel, or at least it seems like it. And as far as my thoughts on the anonymous Raw general manager being back, I don't know. It depends if he's back for good, or if it's just next week, and if he's actually going to be anonymous, or is he going to be revealed next week. I don't know what's going to happen. If he is going to be revealed next week, who's it going to be? One interesting thing, though, is at Survivor Series, when Bad News Barrett was delivering bad news, when he was addressing the Authority and how the Authority said that once, they're gone, or if they're gone, if they lose, then the WWE will be lost, and he said, no, it's not going to be lost because it's going to be under a new era, and that era is the era of Bad News Barrett. Maybe when he was saying that, he was talking about, a general manager position, maybe Bad News Barrett as the new GM of Raw. I don't know, I guess we'll have to find out next week. As far as a rating for tonight's show, I'd give it like a 5 to 5.5 on 10. There wasn't really anything really entertaining tonight, but there was a bunch of, funny moments on this show. And, yeah, but overall, nothing really entertained me tonight. There wasn't a great matchup, and, yeah, nothing really stood out. But anyways, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, as always, you can click that like button down below. With that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.